Over the centuries, Buddhism has rightly asserted that the path to success is laden with obstacles that must be overcome. Buddhist teaching emphasizes the importance of correctly interpreting the teachings received, thus avoiding misinterpretations that can lead to suffering and detrimental situations that leave us with no lessons. So, if you want a full and successful life, it is necessary to properly understand the advice of Buddhist teaching. Then get comfortable, because today we will tell you about 4 things that you should never tell anyone if you want to succeed in life. Today we will share one of the fundamental teachings that the wise Buddha left for anyone who wishes to find fulfillment in life, so pay close attention to this story. I am sure it will be of great help on your path to success. In a certain region, there lived a wealthy merchant who had achieved everything in life. This man had incomparable wisdom. He had never known defeat in any aspect of his life, and his business continued to thrive. Wherever this man set his sights on undertaking, success always awaited him. So, you might be wondering, what was this man's secret that allowed him to prosper in everything? Well, firstly, his father had instilled in him 4 things that he always followed, and by listening to these pieces of advice, he was filled with happiness. He knew he was a successful man in all aspects of life, not just financially. It had been a long time since he started his business when he was young, but now this rich merchant was an older adult with many years of experience. As time passed, he realized that his time to depart was drawing ever closer, and sooner rather than later his time would come. He also worried about his son, since he knew nothing of life and was too innocent to understand how the world works. For this reason, he called his son and said, "Son, I learned 4 very important things from my father, your grandfather, and I have applied them throughout my life, which is why I have been a successful man and have lived with happiness that many have not had. Thanks to that advice, I have joy, peace, and economic power. I have never been seriously ill, nor have I lacked money. You can see that I am the richest man in this city, but I am also satisfied with what I own and do not strive to have more. The truth is that I am immensely happy. However, I want you to go further, earn more name, and have more money than I. Your father people should know you and recognize you." The rich merchant moved closer to his beloved son and began to speak to him with love and firmness, saying, "Son, today I am going to tell you 4 things about the world that my father taught me, and that you must learn. If you listen and apply these pieces of advice in your life without neglecting them, you too will become a very rich man and be happy. Following these tips, you will save many problems in your family, and your business will also not be at risk." After saying this, the rich merchant began to tell his son the 4 things. "Son, the first thing you must do if you want to achieve success is to go to work before dawn and return when the sun is setting. The second thing is to put a leather barrier around your house. The third thing you must heed is to always sweeten what you eat. And the 4th, always keep your wife tied up." After saying these profound words, the wealthy man felt calm and at peace, knowing that his son was inexperienced, but surely he would follow his advice and incorporate these 4 tips into his life. Several months passed, and one day death knocked on the door of the wealthy merchant, and he departed. After his father's death, the young son wrote down those 4 pieces of advice on a piece of paper to never forget them, and began to apply them in his life day after day. The first thing his father had told him was to go out and come back when the sky was dark. So he installed a tent from his house to his shop, not caring what people would say. When people asked him why he was doing it, he simply replied that his father had given him that advice and that he would follow it to the letter. Then, following his father's second piece of advice, he built a leather wall on both sides of his house. This angered the neighbors, who even complained about him doing such a strange action. Some told him why he had done that the leather smelled bad and caused them problems, asking him to remove it once and for all, and however, no one could pressure him because he had a lot of money. The merchant's son was determined to follow all his father's advice wholeheartedly in order to achieve his success. Next, The young man remembered the third thing his father had told him: sweeten what you eat, so he always asked his wife to prepare something sweet to eat and only ate that. And the last advice his father had given him was to always keep his wife tied up, so every day he put a rope on his wife's foot so that she could not move. Many days passed like this, and slowly the life of the rich merchant's son began to ruin because he obviously had not understood his father's advice well, taking them literally and following them strictly without analyzing. His successful business began to decline, and the number of customers began to decrease because he attended them when he wanted and returned home when it pleased him. He was not interested in his father's business, so all his customers began to tire of his behavior, and one by one they began to stop buying from him. One day, his business collapsed, the business that his father had established with so much effort from his youth working hard. Now he had ruined it in just a few months. The foolish young man was very worried and, moreover, had built a leather wall around his house, which had generated a stench of rot in the surroundings. And therefore, everyone who lived nearby abandoned their homes and moved elsewhere, leaving the young man almost alone in his region. Because of the smell of the leather, no one wanted to go to his house. Even his friends and relatives had stopped visiting him and no longer even spoke to him. But he still did not understand why all this was happening, so he began to experience deep anxiety and constantly consumed sweet foods, which caused him to rapidly gain weight, and his rapid obesity caused him health problems and diseases that caused him discomfort and made his body their home. The people who visited him now were doctors who had to attend to the health problems that endangered his life. Because of these circumstances, he also began to lose his money on medicines and treatments to counteract his weight problem. Finally, he had applied his father's fourth piece of advice. He kept his wife tied, which caused his wife to lose patience, leaving him to return to her mother's house. He tried to reconcile with his wife in various ways, but she did not relent. And, obviously, what woman would want to live with a man who keeps her tied up? Little by little, the life of the merchant's son had turned into absolute misery due to his poor decisions. He had no business. He had run out of money. His wife left him. Not even his health was good. And his relatives, who loved him for the money, approached him. This did not let him sleep at night, caused him anxiety, and he did not understand what was happening or why. He was very distressed by all these things, and in his heart he blamed his father, saying, "Father, you have completely ended my life. Thanks to your 4 pieces of advice, I have lost everything. I have no business, family, riches, nor wife. And I even suffer from obesity and constant health problems. Because of you, my life is an absolute disgrace. If I had not followed those 4 pieces of advice, everything would be fine. If I had not applied them, I would have a happy life. What have I gained by following those 4 pieces of advice? As a good son, I followed all your words, but I was a fool to blindly believe in them." After pouring out all he had in his heart, he began to weep inconsolably. Then, a few days later, he learned that a wise man who solved everyone's problems, no matter what they were, had arrived in the neighboring city. When he heard this, he thought he might find a solution to get out of his tragic reality, so he gathered the courage to visit this wise man. With much hope, the distressed young man reached the wise man, prostrated at his feet, and began to cry bitterly, saying, "O venerable master, only you can save me from my disgrace. My father has ruined my life. My current situation is a complete disaster because of my father. Although you may not believe it, I did exactly what he told me. Being obedient as a good son, I fulfilled all my duties, and it has been for nothing. Now I am much worse off than before I listened to my father's advice. And even on his deathbed, he taught me the wrong thing, and I am suffering the consequences of listening to all his advice in my life and following his example. And look where I am now. My life is completely in pieces. Every day I wonder, did I do something wrong to him?" After saying all these things, He began to cry even louder in front of the wise man. Then the wise man said to the merchant's son, "Son, calm down. First tell me everything that has happened. Why do you cry inconsolably? What is the reason for your problem?" Hearing this, the merchant's son handed the wise man a paper he had written after his father's death, where he had noted the 4 pieces of advice. The wise man read the paper and began to laugh loudly without any shame, saying to the merchant's son, "What a great fool you are! Your father gave you all the wisdom in the world, but you could not understand it. Many have waited for these pieces of advice and have wandered in life without any direction, but you have not understood the great gift your father left you. Listen carefully. The truth is that you did not follow his advice correctly, and now you say that he showed you the wrong path. Your father was testing you to see if you could understand his words or not, if you could find the true meaning of his recommendations. If he had wanted, he could have explained the meaning clearly, but he wanted you, and only you, to find the meaning of his words. You are so naive. I have not seen anyone with so little understanding as you. You have the wisdom of the world in your hands and still commit such foolishness. You have no knowledge. You have not acquired any wisdom. If you had understood the true meaning of those words, you would have been successful and happy in your life like your father, and above all, you would have saved yourself many problems. But you are so naive that you misinterpreted your father's advice and did not think about the meaning of those words without analyzing the depth of his advice. If you did not understand the meaning of those words, you could have consulted someone wise and found their meaning. But what you have understood from your father's advice is not what he wanted to convey to you." Hearing this, the merchant's son said, "Then what should I do? How can I repair my life that is destroyed?" The wise man explained the true meaning of his father's advice, indicating how to apply them correctly in his life to regain his happiness, health, and above all, his success. With this new insight, the merchant's son committed to following the true path indicated by his father, hoping to recover his life, regain his prosperity, and his health. Before telling you how the young man regained his life and understood his father's advice, I invite you to share this video with people you think it will help. I bet these 4 well-understood pieces of advice will change your life and the lives of those you love forever. Let's continue. Indeed, the meaning of the first piece of advice, according to the wise man, is that you should begin your work before dawn and finish after sunset. This advice is interpreted as the interest you must have in dedication and effort at work, ensuring that as much time as possible is devoted to understanding and improving it. The intention of your father in giving you these words is that by applying your mind and efforts to your work, your business will grow and success will come soon. However, the merchant's son misinterpreted this advice, literally creating an environment that allowed him to always move in the shadow, rather than understanding the symbolism of working from early, with dedication, and during the day. My father gave me vital knowledge for life, but I treated that diamond as if it were a stone. Then the merchant's son said to the wise man, "Master, what is the second piece of advice and what does it mean?" Continuing, the wise man explained the meaning of the second piece of advice, stating, "To make a leather fence means that you should have a dog or a cat in your house. When you have a dog or a cat, they will protect your home from all sides, completely securing your possessions and allowing you to focus on working peacefully in your business without worries, and thus you will perform much better in your tasks. Moreover, you will never have the fear that a thief might steal your property. That is the true meaning of making a leather fence, but you interpreted this advice very, very differently. You decided to completely cover the walls of your house with leather, which caused an unpleasant smell around, and even your neighbors moved away. Even your friends moved away from you because of this strong and bad-smelling aroma." The merchant's son replied, "Master, that's fine. But what about eating sweet foods?" I also did not understand that advice. I followed exactly what my father said, and look how now I suffer from obesity and have health problems, attracting all kinds of diseases. Immediately the wise man said to the merchant's son, Yes, foolish young man, you also misinterpreted that advice. Eating sweets means that you should only eat when you are hungry, not before or after. Otherwise, if you eat without being hungry, you will never appreciate that food, and it will never taste sweet to you, no matter how delicious your wife might have cooked it. But when a person is very hungry, even dry bread seems like a delicacy. He eats it with love, values it, and it is delicious to his palate. That is why your father said you should make your food sweet, so that your health remains in good condition, and thus the food becomes precious when you really crave it and are hungry. But you misunderstood this too, eating sweets every day, which increased your weight and attracted diseases that now bring you close to death. So, from now on, eat only when you are hungry. It will be very beneficial for you and will help keep your health intact, and if you eat without being hungry, it will be harmful to you, and this was your third mistake that ruined your life. Then the merchant's son affirmed fearfully, "But the fourth piece of advice, keep your wife tied, is clearly written. It says always, keep your wife tied." Is there another meaning to this too? Did I misunderstand its interpretation again? The wise man replied, "Yes, son, you also misunderstood this fourth piece of advice. Keeping your wife tied does not mean that you should physically tie her with a rope every day, as if she were an animal. This advice means that when there are differences or arguments between you, you should not get angry with her, but rather seek a loving solution. Trust and mutual understanding are the foundation of marriage, without which relationships would not exist. As long as a man or woman is united with their partner, both will feel secure and committed to that relationship, and that is the true meaning of keeping your wife tied. However, you misinterpreted this as well, physically tying your wife, which is disrespectful, and this caused her to become tired and leave your side. What your father was trying to convey is that you should strengthen the bond with anyone tied to you, so that even though there might be problems, that person won't harm you or take advantage of you. So always maintain your relationships, do not leave them to chance, because if you do, they will slip through your fingers. Most of us make these mistakes in our lives and never give our new relationships time, causing them not to last and to lose them. For this reason, we end up losing friends, family, and obviously the person we love, and obviously this is the mistake you have made. Aufhai, disaudied up your wife and disrespected her, so how could she forgive you? That is the reason she left you. What you did to your wife is absolutely unforgivable, but you must go and humbly ask for her forgiveness because you did everything wrong. So go be a man and talk to her. Those were the 4 pieces of advice your father tried to explain to you, but you misinterpreted everything, and that's why your life is a mess. But not everything is lost. You still have plenty of time. If you correctly follow all these correctly understood pieces of advice, you can recover everything you have lost. These pieces of advice are the solution to all the problems in our life. So if you want to succeed, you must work hard. It is necessary to leave home before dawn and only return after sunset, so that no one can steal your wealth and thus produce more with your work. You must tie your relationships in such a way that they do not cause you problems or harm, and always take advantage of a healthy meal when you are really hungry, so you can live happily every day you have left on this earth. Always maintain your relationships by dedicating time and care to them, otherwise they will slip through your fingers. Likewise, make sure to have a dog or a cat at home so they can help you take care of your properties and your wealth. After following all these pieces of advice in your life, I assure you that you will recover everything you have lost so far, perhaps reaching more progress and prosperity than you had before your father died, making your life happy and pleasant. Saying this, the wise man calmed down. The merchant's son had understood all his mistakes, thanked the wise man, and returned home more peaceful and reflective. He applied those 4 pieces of advice in his life and followed his teachings correctly. Since then, he started to see positive changes in his life, managed to revive his business once again, reconciled with his wife, and gradually, his life made sense. He managed his father's business properly, cared for the relationship with his wife, and steered his life towards success and the safeguarding of his properties. But above all, he understood the wisdom his father had left him, being this a better inheritance than any business or property that his loving father could have left him. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of the video. If you liked the video, we appreciate your support with your like. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you do not miss any of our reflections and stories that will help you on your path to success. See you in the next video.